right. Good morning, everyone. Just so you know, I kind of do this little music intro and title card intro so that everybody can so that I can have the time to make sure all my broadcasts are working and everything like that. Um, it's a nice little cover. Um, Coming to you live from the studio. Um, we are on a new computer here, so um, I can do a few more things and I can do a few less things, but welcome everybody. As you can see, I have on with me our regular guest Cheryl, and we have a
Hello.
new friend. If you would please introduce yourself and tell us who you are and your pronouns and what you do.
My name is Ardencie Hall-Karambe, and my pronouns are she and her. And I am the artistic director of Kaleidoscope Cultural Arts Collective. That's my evening job. And then during the day, I'm an associate professor of theater and English at Community College of Philadelphia.
Great. And Ardencia, what is it that you are working on? You're our special guest today, so you get the top of the show.
Let's see. Right now, currently, my our theater company, Kaleidoscope Cultural Arts Collective (KCAC), is running our Friend show, which is called hashtag All Lives Don't Matter. It was written by me and primarily by me with some additional material from other writers here in the city. And it focuses on the systemic racism and what African Americans have to live through. Some of the the guises of Jim Crow and just the notion, the idea of having to live through this nightmare. So that that we call America.
Yep. Yeah.
In a nutshell.
Yeah,
In a nutshell.
you're right. Yep. We've been running since September 10th. We go until October 4th, so we have a few more shows left. We're doing two shows every day, usually Monday through Thursday at 3 racism and at 8. And then on Saturdays, we have three shows, 11, 3, and 8. And then Sundays, 3 and 6. And Sunday is going to be a really special day because we're having the cast is coming over and we're doing a cookout, I'm cooking, and then we're gonna open, have talk back. So the audience will be able to talk to not just me, but to many members of the cast and crew who have worked on this production. So,
Awesome. And you're doing this as part of Free Fringe as well, right? Or
this is no, it's not part of Free Fringe, but I think it's being listed as part of Free Fringe, which we appreciate all the hype we can get. So we appreciate them listing us, but we were registered with regular Philly Fringe.
oh, okay, great. So part of Fringe, part of listed on Free Fringe, not in, you know, more than
Official
more than
capacity,
happy
yes.
to have more people on. Wait, Jay just joined us. Jay is not in a truck today.
Nope.
Not driving. Wow, that's amazing.
Right.
Um,
Still need better lighting, but I'm not in the truck today.
so yeah. So yeah, we were just talking to Ardencie. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. About 1,000 things happen on screen here in front of me anytime I'm talking to somebody, um, and somebody was just mentioning how difficult it is because of the whole debate about whether or not Joe Biden was going to be allowed to wear an earpiece during the debates. Um, another person was mentioning online about how difficult it is to operate in this sort of environment where you have information coming into your ear, you have a lot of information that you're trying to give out, and then you also have new information coming to you visually constantly. And it's just interesting, like, some folks were, they were saying, like, this is a super difficult environment to work in, and if you think that somebody with dementia can do that, you're probably overestimating somebody's abilities, because even trained professionals, or people who've been doing it for a long time, have a hard time doing it. So if I get distracted or say a lot, it's because I'm not very good at this yet. I'm operating in the methodology of, you only have to be as good as a mediocre white guy.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, why are we gonna try and be better all the time? I don't know. I do try to be better constantly myself, but we're always, one of the things that I participate here in Philly with is, the conversations in and around theater and in and around theater production, and how accessible or inaccessible it is or can be. And one of the things I've always been pushing for in my advocacy is more accessibility and participation for people of color and other minority viewpoints to get into live theater. I think that conversation has been kind of muted because of the coronavirus crisis, and also because, interestingly, the conversations around police aggression have also kind of opened up the conversation about accessibility for people of color to the modern zeitgeist. I know, Ardencie, you've been in education and theater for longer than I've probably been along, probably longer than I've been alive.
That's James.
But what if anything?
22 years?
No. I'm a kid. No, I'm not actually a kid. Just people always think I'm a kid. That's that black don't crack thing. But,
unless it's on crack.
Unless it's on crack, then
and it will be a cracking.
People losing teeth and stuff. But what if anything have you seen over the course of your career? I always notice the changes that have happened and then gone back and then happened again and then gone back. Like, there was a period in the late 60s, early 70s where entertainment was very, very well integrated and very well participated in by everyone. It was very representative. It was a good period for pop culture and pop entertainment. And then all of a sudden we hit the 80s and 90s, and all of that went away, and like entertainment became divided and divisive. Do you think we're headed to a place again where entertainment will be something we come together about, or do you think that this is something that is inevitable, these waves that will go back again?
I'm hoping I could agree to a certain extent about the waves. I think it's kind of like the idea, until the society as a whole really buys into the notion that diversity, that inclusiveness is a good thing for our society, we will until they do that, we're going to continue to have waves. I'm hoping, and this is going to sound weird in a way. I think in some ways the pandemic was good for us, and good and bad for us, because I have to recognize those who have lost their lives to this and those who are suffering from it. But it caused us as a society to stop for a moment. We had no choice. We couldn't continue the rat race as we were going, running from one place to another, doing these things and not really concentrating on the present and what was happening. And so all these incidences, police aggression, laws being changed, things happening, and politics and society that we normally would have glossed over, we had actually had time to begin to focus on it. And people had to really stop. I think people stopped and asked themselves, who do I want to be when I come out of this? Who do we want to be as a society when we come out of this? And Brother George Floyd, when we watched his execution, and we watched it, we all saw it. We saw it. It was deliberate in the kinetics of that policeman as he pushed his knee further when he realized he was being taped and showed he didn't care. He pushed his knee even further into the man's neck, saying, I really don't care. And we all watched it, and it caused one of the largest civil rights movements across the globe and went globally. When you have people marching in Japan and China and other places for George Floyd, when you see a public execution like that, I think it, in some ways, gravitized a lot of us to think we want to be better when we come out of this situation with the coronavirus. So as far as theater is concerned, I'm seeing here in Philly a change. I've been in Philly. I moved to Philly in 2001, something like that. I started teaching. That's when I started teaching at the college here. And theater was always very closed off to people who looked like me, except for the occasional one or two black shows that may roll through. And even then, it was a very select group of black artists or artists of color. It was a very difficult place to break into. And I think it still is. It's changed and it's changing, but it has a long way to go. But I think people are open to the idea of it more inclusiveness, of finding ways. How do we, when we tell stories, how do we tell as many people's story as possible? How do we tell and I'll use this term, the American fabric. How do we tell this story? How do we tell our story that includes all of us?
So tell the complete story.
Yeah, tell a complete story, and they're looking at
it was bad, but it wasn't that bad. Oh yes, it was.
Oh, it was bad.
Like emulate Germany. Germany comes to get a little slangish. They keep it 1,000. Like, listen, we really, really, really had a dark era. This really happened. The Holocaust happened. Mm-hmm. It was nasty. These people have been arrested for war crimes. They keep it 1,000. You have to shake the Etch-a-Sketch of American history all the time to get, or I have to see it in Lovecraft, or I have to see it in Rosewood. You never get that depicted.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? You never get depicted. Like, yo, we already know y'all did this. Stop. Just tell us. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. It was horrible.
And then when you have a president who doesn't know history,
we don't have a president. We don't have a president. We got some guy
who wants to say that this indoctrination because he doesn't know the history.
Listen. No, wait. I gotta stop you there. People in that echelon, that 3%, they know exactly who we are. Exactly. Mm-hmm. If a magical moment happened where millions of black people could migrate out of here and take the trillions of dollars with them, there will be everything in their power to stop us from leaving. They know exactly who we are. And that's where the hatred comes from. That's where it comes from. Jim Crow, the Klan, crack, opioids. We survive everything, and it pisses them off. They know exactly who we are. That's a myth. He doesn't know our history. He knows exactly who. His fathers know of our greatness. We don't know who we are.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. That's the problem. Not them. They know exactly who we are.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they want you divided. I hate to get on my soapbox. That's exactly why division works so well, because unified, we got to burn down. We got to burn down Tulsa. We got to burn down Central Park. We got to burn down Rosewood. Because unified, that black dollar is spending 11 times in the black neighborhood before it goes to my pocket. Oh, no, we can't have that. We can't have y'all being like Asians and our Jewish brothers. We can't have y'all spending y'all money in your own community 9, 10, 15 times before I get a piece. No. Right. They know exactly who you are. I ain't mean to cut you off, but that's
I understand. I agree. I think the 3% knows, but I don't think he knows. And I'm talking about him personally. No, you know what I'm saying? But I think the 3%, they definitely know who we are. That's why they have continuously had to suppress us in one way or another. You know, one of the lines in the piece, all lives don't matter, the character says, you know, you would much rather destroy us than pay us what you owe us. And that has been their intent. Rather than give reparations, rather than lay it on the line, you would much rather destroy the black community in every way you can and continue to build up these myths, because that disillusionment, that they don't want theirs to have that disillusionment. You know, a former student of mine, I had posted something about the unwanted and unknown hysterectomies of black women during the 1920s and 30s. And then 2 days later, here comes something about migrant women going through the same process. And she is one of my former wives. She says, Dr. Hall, I'm becoming disillusioned. And I said, and that's what they're afraid of. You're walking around in this illusion that everything white is cool. You know what I'm saying? And you can go around with that bubble, so it makes it easier for you to go through your world. You don't have to think about your place in history because it's solidified. Okay? But when you start to hear, it breaks up that illusion, and they really have to start looking in the mirror as a. I'm sorry, I hate to refer to my show again, but I am. Okay, and so
talk about it.
You're here for it.
And in the last scene, you know, the character says, you know, you've been trying to make the world think that we are the boogeyman, that we are the bad people. We're just the ones holding up the mirror.
That's it.
We're just showing you your own. You're just seeing your own reflection.
And they always try to caption it. Well, this is anti-white or racism. It's neither of those things. It's the truth. My grandfather said the truth can never be insulting. If you stink, you stink. Go take a bath. I'm not insulting you. If you did these atrocities, if you're continuously doing these atrocities and we see it, it's not an insult. It's not anti-white. Stop it. It's just the truth. That's it.
Because you don't admit you don't know. You don't know your history.
To touch on that, about the hysterectomies, a good book to look at about the history of how they decimated slaves and black women in medical experimentation is Medical Apartheid by Harriet A. Washington. I've been trying to read and finish this book for years because it is that horrifying. I bought this book like 5 years ago. Every time I get this, I have to stop. It's just like, wow. It's cringeworthy, but it's a good read. It really breaks down how messed up they did. Whew. Experiments on us, and still do.
And still, I was about to say, and still
trials.
Trials.
You know, t-shirt game.
Yeah, and it's bad because it leads into that distrust of the medical profession, where we don't seek out any help. People are like, well, I was fine before I went to the hospital, now I've got diabetes and blah blah blah. There's a true distrust of the medical profession, and it's not healthy. But then also, we know why we don't trust the medical profession, because when you're going to a doctor and you're saying I'm in pain, they're like, oh no, you're fine, we'll let it be somebody else. Like, oh, here's this, and let's try this, and we'll do surgery. But for us, it's like, oh no, you're good, that's all in your head. When we go in there and we say, oh, I feel something that's not right. I have an aunt who is like that. I want to say she was like in her early 30s, and she said she felt a lump. And of course, the doctor was like, oh, you're too young. Don't worry about it, blah, 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 blah. Well, 10 years later, she's got, stage 3 breast cancer. But they could have caught it early had they listened to her before, even though she was young. It's not like young women don't get breast cancer. It's not like men don't get breast cancer. But they look at us and they're like, oh, well, you're fine. It's just all in your head. You're just being a hypochondriac or, kind of thing.
Painkillers.
Right. Right. Exactly. And we're known to be strong, and they're just like, oh, well, you'll be fine.
For the longest time, there was a myth that we didn't feel pain, that we didn't feel pain, which made it easier for them to do experiments. I'm like, if I'm screaming, it's because it hurts.
I mean, but then again, they might have also throughout time have gotten a high tolerance for pain. Mm-hmm. Like I've gone into get a massage, and she's like, touching places, and she's like, that doesn't hurt. I'm like, no, it doesn't hurt me. But I also get migraines, so my tolerance for pain is a little different. I may not say something until it's really, really hurting, whereas if it was someone else, they would have said something a lot earlier. But to me, it's just like, oh, well, I always have that pain.
Yeah, but that's one Nubian sister. That's just you. I don't have a high tolerance for pain. I'm tender-headed. You see, I got coils on me. I don't do braids.
If you look at the time period, and you're
getting continuously in pain, so I'm just always just trying to maintain.
Right, but if you look at the time period and you look at slaves that were getting whipped and beat and raped, in their head, they probably took themselves to a place where they didn't feel that pain.
Yeah.
So to their slave master, it's like, we didn't feel pain because we wouldn't cry, we wouldn't break, I'm not gonna, you're not gonna break me. And that's where their misconception of we don't feel pain comes from. We felt it, we just, at some point you build a tolerance, and at some point you're just like, nope, I'm not gonna cry, I'm just gonna go ahead, get through this and let it be done with.
So, this isn't a graceful segue, but I will segue into the
the squirrel.
I will segue this into what I've been saying, which is that we as a community and all people who are anti-racist and anti-fascist need to operate with tactics right at the moment, not with absolute idealism. What we're discussing, it is there's a tactical element of thinking, of talking about these topics, of talking about how the Black community feels pain and deals with pain, and how we as a society deal with pain. Is it tactically better to say that yes, there are some of us who deal with pain better because we've dealt with so much pain, or is it tactically better to acknowledge that all humans have pain and experience pain? So, in a tactics perspective, I often go to the place where I'm expressing the view from the 1,000-yard perspective, so to speak. We're let's talk about the outcome, the coming out of antivirals for the COVID and COVID vaccines. They're coming out. They're being released. They're going to be released. They've been rushed through the process of being going through trials and whatnot. They're supposed to be safe, but they're testing them on humans. I gotta say, from a 1,000-yard perspective, I'm not going to participate in that, I'm not going to participate in being the and I don't think our community in general should participate in being the first people to take vaccines. I'm not anti-vax though. Vaccines are valuable. Vaccines are important. How do we resolve this this offset, the tactics versus the ideal? The ideal here is, yeah, people should trust medicine, should trust science, should participate in medical science so that medicine can get better. I don't know, like where do we when do we employ the tactics to get what we want rather than sticking with the ideal? So yeah, and when do we modify those tactics?
Yeah, for me, it's, and I'm very data driven. Um, all the data should be transparent, should be available. You should be able to see it. You should be able to see what other clinical trials and other vaccines did, and compare it to this one. I mean, from what I understand, and I haven't had time to kind of dig into it, they already had animal trials previously. So in order to get to phase 3, you have to do animal trials and you have to do safety trials before you get to phase 3. Rushing through phase 3, I can tell you it's not even just a person of color thing. It's a even scientist thing. A lot of colleagues, and I've had a lot of vendors, come to my job for various reasons because I'm building a clean room, and everyone, when I talk to them, they're like, yeah, I'm not taking the first one. White, black, indifferent, they're not taking the first one because from a scientific perspective, it's too rushed. If you look at how long it takes me to review documents, I have 100 and something page document to review. I'm not going to rush my way through it. But if we're rushing this, who's reviewing these pages? Like, and how fast and what are they missing? I don't feel comfortable having it rushed like this, being, how important that data is. Right.
I won't be in that first trial either.
And I actually considered joining one of the clinical trials. And it's just like, I talked to quite a few friends and talked to quite a few, former colleagues, and I just decided not to, because if they don't trust it, then I don't trust it. And it's a shame because we do need people to join clinical trials, as James was saying, but with this one, not so much. Anything else, a new drug product for migraines, I'm right there because the studies are there, the data is there, the time is being taken. For this vaccine, there's not enough time being taken. And if you're asking for, I think Moderna has 30,000 people that are supposed to sign up for their clinical trial. Pfizer has 60,000. AstraZeneca, I think, has 60,000. That's a lot of people that you're putting at risk by rushing this. And not only them at risk that are in the trial, but the people who are going to take this vaccine after it's released.
So I have been hearing ads running on WDAS and other black radio stations looking particularly in the African American community, for, because we are so hard hit by corona. Mm-hmm. But we're not stupid out there.
If it was anything else, I'd be like, sure, whatever.
For real. I mean, at one point they were trying to test it in Africa, and African nations were like, why? We don't have those numbers.
Right. We have one case. You can't even.
We don't have those numbers. Y'all take that somewhere else. And they found that they couldn't do their trial in some places.
Mm-hmm. And also let's not just skip over the fact that the medical community is still trying to figure out how African countries, being so quote unquote backwards, were able to avoid massive outbreaks of this virus
when they haven't had luck with other viruses.
Right.
And we haven't had enough time to study this virus. There's not enough information about it. So, and it's, are they secluded enough that, they're not seeing the same numbers? And since people don't normally just travel back and forth to Africa, but people travel back and forth to the US and Mexico and, Europe. Um, Maybe it's, related to tourism. I mean, if you look at 6 degrees of separation, if you look at how the virus first started, it was literally like 6 degrees of separation. So yeah, it's kind of like one of those things where, and I look at where my parents are. They're in rural, Virginia, central Virginia, right smack dab in the literal middle of nowhere. Their numbers, I mean, they've had maybe 100 cases since March, but they're so secluded that they're not traveling to New York and New Jersey, and people aren't necessarily traveling to there. Almost every single case that they had came from someone in New York, New Jersey, or somewhere that was a hotspot.
And that's most of how it was transmitted too. So, but there is a lot of travel, and this was initially a concern early in the outbreak. There's a lot of travel between China and Africa, because there's a lot of new colonial activity from China to Africa. But
And that's how they believe the first couple of outbreaks, but they still don't have the numbers in comparison to what there's some countries that have seen none. There's some who've seen as less than 100, and so they still don't have the numbers, even with the new colonialization of China. So,
I think it's probably more along the lines of the fact that in most of the rest of the world, traveling pretty widely is more common, whereas in Africa and African nations, even even the most advanced and first world of African nations like Saudi Arabia and Egypt, it's very common to not leave your neighborhood. It's very common to just stay within your own sphere of influence, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, that depends.
And then I also wanted to segue on to some of the other topics that we haven't covered that I put up in the title card. So we're talking about systems. Everything is about systems, but this is, we're talking about systems of colonialism and architecture of society that creates the environment where this pandemic spread so easily. And it's an architecture that people have been pointing out from various angles for quite a long time. But interestingly, I think the different people pointing it out are pointing it out for different reasons. You had Bill Gates pointing out this architecture for many years before the pandemic happened, being concerned that something like the pandemic would happen. And then when it did happen, he moved his foundation to trying to provide vaccines and or supporting vaccine research. But all of his point out of this system is ironically aligned with people who are anti-capitalist and anti-colonialism pointing out the same system. The system exists because capitalism has been seen as a solution in the Euro-dominated world, a solution to peace. If you buy from me, you're not going to try and fight me, or vice versa. If I buy from you, I'm not going to try and destroy you because you have stuff that I want, but you're giving it to me. through the mechanism of capitalism.
And
So,
what happens when you run out of the stuff that I want?
well, that's a good question.
That's Saddam Hussein and a couple other people that we used to work with that we were homies with, and you're not gonna do what I say no more. Enemy of the state. And we're just like, yeah, get him. And we're like, well, why are we getting him? Because he won't do what I say. What?
Hang on.
Just had to put in there like, we do that kind of all the time. Starting with the indigenous population in this country, we do it all the time. Yeah, we cool until you teach me all the stuff I need to learn, and then we suddenly aren't cool. When would that happen? Trust me, you'll know.
So a couple of pieces of this that I wanted to bring special attention to. Right now, we're and I'm going to be doing a PSA about this on Friday. For Ill Dudes is rolling out their album, but I'm going to participate as a PSA segment during their rollout party. But there's a census going on right now. Here in the U.S., we do a census once every 10 years, and we're supposed to count literally everyone in the country. Doesn't matter if they're an immigrant, doesn't matter if they're registered to vote, doesn't matter who or why they're here. We do a census every 10 years, and that's
Can I ask
because,
a question, James?
Yeah.
Are they supposed to be really aggressive when they take the census?
There's an element of aggressiveness, yes,
So
because
that's normal.
Yeah, because a lot of
the
people.
last time I got my hair done, a young lady came to my stylist shop and she was asking, can you take the census now? And she's like, well, I have clients, which she did. The shop was full. Now's not a good time. And she repeatedly kept asking her questions, and the lady, my stylist, had to literally almost call the police on her to have her leave because she would not leave. And I was like, you should probably not do that in other less suburban neighborhoods. What do you mean? I said, trust me on this. I didn't know the lady. I was like, that tactic is not going to work everywhere in Philadelphia. When someone tells you to leave their property, you should probably go immediately.
Is the business her house? Is that why they were coming to the salon?
Well, she has two houses. She converted the house to a salon, and then she has a house in Delaware. But the point is, like, one of her clients had to leave and literally kind of shoo this lady off of her property. She would not leave and was like getting more and more abrasive with the way she was talking to her. And I was like, that's not going to work everywhere. She's a sweetheart, but I know people who are not sweethearts that are like, what did you say?
Yeah, especially if you tell them like
leave their property. She has to enter like a foyer, so she's actually in her property now. She's in the property now. Like, you're already kind of in that inside part. I'm like, and I told the lady, like, you should probably go.
Yeah.
Even though she's a sweetheart, sweethearts have limitations. Like, your grandma, if you push her hard enough, well, I'm just, just saying, you should go.
There's an element of...
I've never seen that before. I've never seen a census taker that aggressive before. I just thought that was weird.
There's an element of aggressiveness because of the lack of participation in the census. And, census takers are people. They're individuals. So, they're working from a script, but also they feel the pressure, they feel the anxiety. And if you're out there volunteering your time, or, you get paid, but it's not much. And you want to do a good job, obviously you're going to feel a little bit of pressure, especially with the low participation. There's something like 14 million people estimated that haven't responded to the census. So
why?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. I'm old enough to remember back in the 70s and 80s, my very black grandfather talking to his 7 children and telling them not to participate in the census. Census participation is up in in 2020 amongst the black community, but we were in the 70s and 80s facing the same propaganda that a lot of the immigrant community faces now, and to a certain extent that propaganda still exists in the black community, which is, if you participate in the census, you'll be on the government list. The government will know who you are and where you are and what you are, and it'll make you a target. Blah blah blah.
Every time I do it, I get picked for jury duty. Every time I do it, I've been picked for jury duty 6 times.
Because now they know where you live.
Two murder cases. Even when I moved, when I moved to Manio, even though I live in Abu Dhabi now, and I did the census, that year I got picked for jury duty.
It's usually voter registration.
Really?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I do that too. So I'll probably be serving at some point because they always pick me.
In Pennsylvania, it's all voter registration. Yeah.
But, yeah, I think people are also scared of the census, kind of like James was saying, like, they're now tracking you. They know exactly how many of you are in this neighborhood. Lines probably start to get redrawn for school districts. There's a bunch of reasons why people hate the census, but it's personally very handy when you're trying to track, your ancestry, and that's all we had. And it stops at, 1865-ish.
So I mean, the upshot is, if you participate in the census, there is somebody, the OEOB, the office in the federal government that does nonpartisan estimates of money. They did an estimate, and they found that it would be something like $2,000 per year that folks would lose out on, if they neighborhoods would lose out on per person that didn't respond to the census. So if you haven't responded to the census, respond to it. It makes no sense to not respond to it by now. But respond to the census. It's important. It's important for voting too.
It's important for our neighborhoods.
So the census also controls our voting rights. It lets us get represented accurately, because they use the census numbers to create congressional districts and assign polling locations and stuff like that.
And electoral votes by the number of people in that state.
Mm-hmm.
So all of it is connected. And so when we don't play, so to speak, the game, or we don't participate as fully as we should, our neighborhoods don't get the benefits that we're supposed to get.
Yep. And then I wanted to briefly cover voting as well. I know I'm speaking to the choir with this particular panel, but voting is super important this year. I mean, even this morning I saw a tweet by a black activist. Biden didn't do anything to really tell us why we should vote for Biden during the debate last night. But the reason you should vote for Biden is because Trump literally called out to white supremacists and told them to stand by. Stand by for what is an important question, but he's literally calling for a civil war on national TV. And you know what? If you want to use that meme, change my mind, you're not going to change my mind. He's calling for a civil war, and he's calling.
Biden inquired one time about white supremacy, and he immediately started sweating like R. Kelly at a Girl Scout meeting. And it was like on some Looney Tunes animation, like, oh, take the wheel. just the mere mention. You can come down to the exact second when like the beads of pork fat started sliding down his face. I was like, wow.
You say pork fat.
Yes. I detest them.
Oh, I'm being tickled this morning. Okay.
And I don't care if black people are mad at me. I will never forgive R. Kelly. I'm sorry. I won't forgive him. No. Because we're like people are like nonchalantly giving him a pass on social media. I'm like, no. Put it back in. No. Well, he's. I don't care if he's talented. No. He couldn't. If I had daughters, he couldn't watch my daughters on TV. That's all I'm saying. No. So yeah, he really started sweating when Biden inquired just a little bit about his connection with white supremacist group, which we know he's affiliated with.
Exactly.
Unless you're an imbecile.
Exactly. We know he.
That's why I feel like when I ride by those Trump Pence signs all down the South, and all I'm seeing is support Jim Crow and support the Klan signs, the remix.
It's so weird to see it in PA and Jersey. Like
Plenty of racism to go around. You get a racist.
Exactly.
You get a racist.
Racism didn't stop at the Mason-Dixon line, honey.
Right.
At all.
It crossed over.
But it expanded a lot more. You know, when you look at the South and they look at us as Yankees and they think,
Listen,
like it's
racism on a scale from the South to the North is how public it can be.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Up here we got hammers, and we're pro-black up here, so you can't be up. You can still do it. You gotta be quiet. Hey, I don't really like that.
You have to be latent. You can't be as
now
blatant.
the further down you go, you can rock your Confederate flags and your Trump signs, and only good protesters are dead protesters. Yes, I've seen that bumper sticker many times. It ain't gonna fly up here.
Right. And actually,
it's really not
and I'm from the South. It doesn't fly everywhere in the South either.
Right.
You're right.
I was going to say where my mom is not going to fly.
You know,
you go to Baltimore, they're not gonna let that fly. But
so you have to be. They have to.
Trump supremacy homies will never march down 52nd in West Philly. They won't march down that street. There's not enough police to protect you, and if you march down 52nd Street in West Philadelphia, there's not enough cops in the world.
Well, even in the South, like where my mom is from, she went back and now she's. And you figure my mom, she's what, 70? She'll be 70 this year. So those kids, their grandparents, were out of school for 5 years. So they know the history. They're not going to let those white people just walk all over them because they know the history. Now, when you get to somewhere where they don't know the history, it's a little bit different, and it's kind of hard to explain, but like I grew up in Jersey and I have friends that I went to school with that they weren't so connected to the civil rights movement as my parents were because they were in the South and they were affected directly by Jim Crow laws. So, it's a little different from state to state and neighborhood to neighborhood. But even in my neighborhood that I grew up in,
they always target a very low population of us. They always march with like 7 black people.
Well, and it's weird because like even in the neighborhood I grew up in Jersey,
when you protest,
the neighborhood I grew up in Jersey, it was subtle. When my parents first moved into that neighborhood in the beginning of the 70s, it was, a whole bunch of white people. Then it was, now it's mixed, white and black. All of a sudden, it was all black people. They built another road in between the other neighborhood, so cut off an entire line of a street. And now there's a Venus Drive on this side, and then there's a Venus Drive on that side, and it's literally the other side of the tracks. They moved into that other neighborhood and we moved into their neighborhood, and they white flight. They were like, oh, we're out. And it is still like that to this day, but it's subtle. My parents know it because they started there when the neighborhood was first built. But the kids who live there now probably always thought it was a black neighborhood, and it wasn't. And this is in Jersey. This is not,
Yeah.
the
Like I
South.
said, it's latent. It's latent. It's much.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in Texas.
Mm.
Ooh.
See, I figured that.
That's where they manufacture racism. That's like
I know everything's bigger in Texas, right?
Turn
The
it like
racism is
butter.
bigger.
And so, it was always, and I had older brothers and sisters, and my parents who were part of the civic club and civil rights movement during that time period. So it was definitely ingrained in us to be very aware of what was going on. Being very, I can literally say there were areas, there were sundown. I lived in sundown places.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So I learned about, I will say this, I appreciate the blatant racism, because then I can just kick your ass and keep going.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The blatant racism is
Thank you for letting me
always.
know where you stand.
So let me
Well,
knock
not
you
the
down.
administering CPR to you. Thank you.
All right. So it's the latent that often, I think, tricks a lot of us, which is also talked about in the play. This whole notion of public lynching is that how do you talk about something that is so fleeting, because it's like smoke. It's so light, it's so subtle that and I'll admit, to a certain extent, they don't even realize that they're doing it, but they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I said they may recognize, but some of them,
Some of them are, I don't know.
some of them are done. I think it's so ingrained in them. Going back to this notion of indoctrination, it worked on both sides. This idea of being disillusioned, they are so illusioned that it is glorious to be white,
Right.
that they don't recognize their own racism in their own, because of their whiteness, in that illusion. And so sometimes they don't recognize it, and you take that into account, but at the same time,
just like our own people don't recognize when we're being prejudiced. Some of the stuff I hear about white people, about Asian people, about Latino people, like, that's prejudice, right? No, it's not. Yeah, it is. Same way if I say, well, we all play basketball, we all come from single parents' homes, we're all not educated, we're all not business owners. If I keep spewing this stuff out, you would get pissed. But like, you spewing out atrocities about people's diet and what they do and what they're known for and what they're only capable of, that's just as wrong. We just can't be racist because we ain't got no power. Yeah.
Yes, I like that.
Yeah. Racism takes power. We don't have that yet. But, hate doesn't work on either side of the equation. You can't be hateful if you're fighting hateful people. That's just dumb. Like, why are you hating them? Because they hate us. Well, how do you feel about them? We hate them too. Wait a minute. I like Bob at Staples. Bob is my man. He always gives me good stuff and discounts with his code at the register. I mean, Bob's cool. He's Bob alone.
I can't wait till the day, and I don't know if I'll live to see it, wait till the day where we don't have to worry. We find, I'll use this, other reasons to hate folks besides the color of their skin,
right,
their religion, and that may be the wrong terminology, but I'm ready to be in a space where we're just looking at each other as human beings,
individuals, right? When you cut me off in traffic, I'm not upset with you because you're white or Latino or Asian. I'm upset with you because you can't drive.
Thank you.
And maybe because your parents had you. Other than that, I'm not mad at your entire nationality. I'm mad at you.
Right.
Yeah, and
you was in the far right lane making a left turn. I'm mad at you. That's what I'm mad at.
From the right lane.
Ain't got nothing to do with your ethnicity or your orientation. I don't care what your bumper sticker says. You don't need to be on 76. Let's just talk about it. Okay, you need to be on 76. Baby steps.
Yeah, like you said, I don't think we'll see it in our lifetime. I had a friend, and this was probably like 5, maybe 6 years ago. We were out at a bar talking, and we're both pretty drunk. And he just kind of was like, "Do you think like racism will be, over in our lifetime?" And I literally bust out laughing, and I was like, "No." And he looked genuinely like disappointed. He was just like, "Wait, what do you mean? Like I was like, no, because there's people who are very quiet right now about their racism. It may seem like it's okay right now, but it's not okay. And he just like literally looked at me. We had a really long talk, and it was very, very honest because we were both very drunk. So it was a very open and honest conversation. And you know, and now, you know, I look back at it and I'm like, I'm so mad I was right. You know, like I was kind of hoping I would be wrong, and then he could come back and be like, see, I told you racism is over. But
I think
that's
it would
not the
take an
case.
alien invasion, like in the movies. It would take something from like another galaxy, like a Thanos, to come down.
Right.
So like, okay, I'm gonna hate you tomorrow, but we gotta fight these purple dudes right now. Like, let's chill.
I
Purple
think,
dudes are kicking up behind us.
We can't even do that right.
and
Probably
just to go back to tactics for a minute, I think that's what I've been trying to say to some of the folks. So I deal with a lot of leftist folks on Twitter and whatnot, and I've been trying to say to a lot of those folks, you know, that's what we need to do right now. We need to move to a place where there is this other enemy and this bigger enemy. Yeah, the system sucks, but the system involves all of us. So let's be clear. You know, tactically, yes, eventually we want to change the system, or ideally, I guess, eventually we want to change the system. But right now, the tactic is to say, hey, look at that guy and how crappy he is and what he's been doing that's illegal, and let's make some laws that make it so that he can't do that ever again, and let's put him in jail, and then we'll work on the system. I don't know.
I'm so sorry. I hate to leave this conversation, but I had
No worries.
11. I have students waiting to talk to me on my other computer. So y'all have a great day. Thank you very
It
much.
was great talking
All
to
right.
you. You're
Great
amazing.
day.
You're awesome.
Great talking to you too. And yeah, I let this run over a little bit because I didn't realize how late we started late. I didn't realize how late it was. But thank you
But
so much
invite
for
me
talking.
again. I love it. Let's have this talk again.
Hey, you will get the invite every week. Just join in when you feel like it.
Sounds good. Peace out, y'all.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you everyone for watching today, and I would love to leave this conversation go for multiple hours. Nobody would watch it, but we're at least enjoying it. But you know, I'm gonna do my normal plugs. Thank you again to all our guests. Thank you for watching. If you're online, I did see some comments online. I really appreciate live comments, and I appreciate everything everybody brings to the conversation. Thank you to Cheryl. Thank you to Jay. Really appreciate you guys for always being here co-hosting. When
My
you
favorite
can.
show, man. I come for
Right,
t-shirt game
exactly.
and you. I come every week for you two people. You're awesome. I need my t-shirt. I need Cheryl. I need James. I need my dose.
Today it's
I'm not gonna be right.
I must break you.
Yeah.
Nice. And
Nice.
thank you to Ardencie Hall-Karambe. She's got a show coming. She's got a show going on. It's online. Feel free to watch it. It's a great show, as you heard, and touches on a lot of these topics. If you'd like to support independent media, independent Black and brown voices, please like, share, subscribe. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. Follow the Facebook channel. Follow the YouTube channel. Light Thief Productions on both. We're also on Mob Crush Twitter via Periscope and Twitch. Don't have a Mixer account. I don't see the point yet. So
Hey, I don't
sorry,
have TikTok,
Mixer.
so, oh.
I don't have a TikTok account either. I'm just that old. I
Yeah.
can't move. And also we have a Patreon. We have $5 per month so far donated via Patreon. So donate to that Patreon. I'll paste the.
We'll get
link
there.
in
HBO's
the
watching,
show notes.
James. They're watching. We'll get there.
Right. Patreon.com/Light Thief Productions. Do I say the word thief weird? People can never understand when I say the word thief on the phone.
Say
Like,
thief, right?
Yeah.
As in steal stuff.
yeah,
I heard you. I've never heard you say it weird.
I don't know.
Yeah, it
Happily,
probably
I'm
just
glad
sounds
you never had to
weird.
say it to me. But
Right. And we hear you say it all the time, so maybe it doesn't sound weird anymore. I don't know.
maybe because we're fellow Philadelphians, we just, we understand the dialect.
Hmm.
Gerard.
I don't know. Anyway,
That's very true.
all right. So yeah, Light Thief Productions on Patreon. Light Thief Productions. Stick that tongue between my teeth.
You're
And
enunciating, man. You're awesome.
and yeah, support independent media. We can bring you more stuff the more money we have, and so give us some money.
Please and thank you.
Please and thank you. I'll let
I'm sorry,
Cheryl be
it's
the.
not for the kids. It's not for the kids. It's for us.
No.
We need the money.
Right.
No, yeah, it's
4K
for
cameras
equipment.
cost a lot of money. We need money.
It's for equipment. It's for paying folks. Jay and Cheryl have been volunteering their time, and so would love to actually pay them to be participants and co-hosts.
Pay me for my drone coverage of the next protest.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Yes. That would be. Can you RTMP drone footage? What is it? It comes on down onto your cell phone.
Like go
right?
live?
Yeah.
You should be able to, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Go live on Facebook or
Theoretically,
YouTube.
yes.
I gotta kind of be on the side and zoom in because I can't fly directly overhead legally.
Mhm.
Right.
We never had this conversation, but I can be like off to the side and zoom in.
Yeah.
And you'll still get the point. Like I'm not over their heads. I'm only 300 feet, so you can't see me. Haha.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, we'll talk more about that next coffee break chat. Again, thank you to my guests.
Love you guys. Have a good day.
All
See
right.
you
Have a
next
good one
week.
and a great week.
Bye bye.
Everybody have a great week. Really appreciate you watching.